Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing? Happy St. Patrick's Day. I was just telling Kiersten that I usually wear my flannel here. I still have it in the picture, but I had to wear green because of the big holiday today. Um, you probably, hopefully you all remember me, but maybe you don't. I am Carly Euler. I am back from maternity leave. And speaking of maternity leave, I brought my baby Tucker here. He is hanging out having his first nonprofit webinar, and what better topic for him to learn right now than marketing trends, right? Can't learn too early. So Tucker's crying a little bit, but he should be more excited because he is actually sporting a very nice Firespring t-shirt sent by Kiersten over to him. So we're so thankful for that, and we're excited to have him here. And I'm excited to have Kiersten here. Without further ado, though, let me go ahead and introduce you. And we are just dying to hear all these new marketing trends that you have for us today.
Awesome.
Oh no, don't cry. Here.
Bouncy seat to the rescue.
Yeah, let me put you right over here for a second, buddy. Okay, so Kiersten Hill is the driving force behind Firespring's nonprofit solutions and an inspiration to organizations worldwide or nationwide, worldwide probably. With nearly 2 decades of dedicated service in nonprofit management and fundraising, she has raised over 20 million to strengthen Nebraska's nonprofit sector. At Firespring, Kiersten enables organizations, their leaders, and board of directors to achieve their mission through education and empowerment. A dynamic thought leader and speaker. I know I've seen you speak many times at many conferences, but she captivates audiences with her expertise on marketing, fundraising, board development, and organizational transformation. So I actually have seen the list of topics that she teaches. It is thorough. It is long. I don't know how you teach so many things, but wow. I mean, there was so many things to choose from for today's webinar. And in the past year alone, she has presented with energy, authenticity, and relatability to nearly 100 webinars and nonprofit conferences. So we are just happy to be at 101 or probably at this point 201. And we're so thrilled to have you. So go ahead, take it away.
Awesome. Thank you, Carly. It is an absolute thrill and an honor to be with you all today and to be on the platform with our friends at MemoryFox. We just appreciate the relationship and the partnership. And it's, when we tend to go to a lot of the same conferences. And so it's always nice to have friendly faces and good folks that we can hang out with and trust. So it's so happy to be here. We are going to talk today about the marketing trends that nonprofits need to know and embrace. Carly already did my introduction, so I don't need to do that. That's me. There's all my contact information. I will bring all of that back at the end of today's session. Firespring is located in Lincoln, Nebraska. That's where our headquarters office is located. If this is the first time you're hearing about Firespring, we have another office in Omaha, Nebraska, and a small walk-up printing shop in Council Bluffs, Iowa. But Firespring has clients in all 50 states in the US and I think we're at 8 international countries right now. So we always say Firespring does a whole lot from right here in the middle of everywhere. Firespring provides strategic guidance that is activated through creative solutions in marketing, printing, and technology. So we have a solution in each of those areas, but our goal is always to help businesses and nonprofits to prosper. We're the first certified B Corporation in the state of Nebraska, which means that Firespring is certified for public benefit. And the way that we express that public benefit is through what we call the power of 3. So Firespring is committed to donating a minimum of 1% of our profits. The top line revenue gets donated every year to nonprofit organizations. 2% of our products get donated through in-kind product and service donations, and 3% of our people. So every full-time salaried employee at Firespring gets 8 hours every single month to volunteer for the nonprofit or charitable organizations of our choice. When you add all of that up, it's 3% of our workforce. So that's how we leverage our people, our product, and our profit to do more good. All right. So today we're going to be talking about marketing trends. And I was talking with Carly before we started today, and this is one of those topics that we have to update pretty regularly because it's in the title. It's literally a trend. So I hadn't updated this presentation deck for a while. So last night I went through and added some stuff. So I'm excited to share some brand new thoughts and content with you today. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is not just personalization, but hyper personalization. We're going to talk about how you can use AI to really power your marketing. I'm going to talk a little bit about community-driven marketing and how we can make sure that our messages are getting to the right people in our communities that we need to receive those messages. I'm going to talk briefly about short form and visual storytelling. I'm going to talk about some smart data strategies. Make sure you stick around because toward the end, I'm going to actually give you a plan for spending just 45 minutes a month to maintain your data. And then audience journey marketing, otherwise known as multi-channel or omni-channel marketing. We're going to talk about that. I also threw in a couple of trends that you want to avoid. So we'll get to those at the very end. I'm going to always wrap up with action steps as we do with any of our content. And I'll be sure to leave a couple of minutes at the end for Q&A. So if you have those questions, I see Carly is in the chat. You can throw any questions or comments in the chat. And if it's critical to the section we're in, Carly can interrupt me. If it's not, then we can save it till the end and we'll bring those up at the end. So if you happen to be posting on social media about today's session, you can tag us at Firespring and you can use the hashtag powered by purpose. And I know you can also tag MemoryFox as well. And if you don't know how to post on social media or what a hashtag is, that is a different webinar, but I do have that. So if you're interested, leave a message in the chat and I can get you a recent recording of social media boot camp or get you signed up for an upcoming session. So I want to make sure that I do a word of caution at the very beginning. This entire thing is all about trends. And these are trends. And we want to always remember that sometimes trends are trends for a reason, right? They're not the kind of thing that you're going to invest a long-term effort into. But they might be some things that you want to kind of dabble in, that you want to try out a little bit, that you want to, see how it works for you. So the first thing is that I think it's really important that throughout all of these trends, one of the things that we want to remember is how important it is to humanize our work and to humanize our organizations. Real stories are going to trump polished marketing every day of the week. And I think that is really a trend that you will see carried through all of these things. So whether it's AI or personalization or whatever we're talking about today, keep in mind that those real stories, the human connection, that is what is going to drive our marketing forward. We want to start thinking about our entire organizations as storytelling organizations. So staff, volunteer, donors, all of them, we are thinking about them all as storytellers. And we want to focus on the impact that our organizations are creating. If you can keep those things at the forefront of your marketing and then wrap some of these new trends around those primary ideas, I think you're going to be better off, working toward the future. And again, connection is really the new currency of nonprofit marketing. Connection is really what it's all about. Carly and I were actually just talking at the beginning of the session. I participated in CauseVox, did an entire conference on fundraising last week, and the whole theme of it was connection. So, there's just, it is more than a trend, but it really is right now what is driving all of nonprofit marketing. So my former example in this deck was I talked about personalization, but as I was getting ready to update it, I said, nope, personalization is out. We are now talking about hyper personalization. So this is, the personalization that is absolutely driven to the individual. So when I say hyper personalization, what I mean is using data and technology and treating every supporter and prospect like they're an individual. So not thinking about sending things to the masses, but sending things to each individual person. So we want to deliver messages and stories and opportunities that reflect each person's interests, behavior, and relationship with your organization and your mission. And part of the way that we do that is by using technology as our friend and using technology to benefit us, and really be able to deliver those individualized messages to the right people, in the right place at the right time. And so here is an example of 8 things that you can personalize. So something as simple as email marketing. Of course, if you're sending email marketing, you should never send it to dear friend. It should always be dear whoever the person that's receiving it. Direct mail is the same way. And I'm always amazed, and I'm going to actually show you some examples of direct mail. I'm amazed at what we can personalize with direct mail. Paid social media posts, you can really hone in on specific audiences when you're purchasing ads on social media. And the other thing about that is that those social media ads are relatively, and in comparison to all other kinds of advertising, somewhat inexpensive. Landing pages, so things like dynamic content that changes per visitor on a landing page, or what are called pearls or personalized URLs, where every single person who gets a mailing actually goes to a landing page that has all of their own individual information on it. So it has their name and those sorts of things on it. Online forms. So for instance, if you come to Firespring and you're going to fill out, say, a webinar, interest form, and you're going to sign up for a webinar, the next time you come back to the Firespring website, we're actually going to ask you different questions than what we asked you the first time, because we already have that information. So we're going to get additional information, and really recognize that you've been to our site before. Promo items, things like, how many of us get mailing labels at the holidays that have your name and address, right? All those things, or pens, yard signs, high-end gifts. There are so many things that can be personalized and customized for each individual. Digital ads, again, I always think it's super creepy when I go onto Amazon and I look at a pair of shoes, and then the next thing I know, those shoes show up in like the sidebar of my Yahoo email. And I totally just dated myself by saying my Yahoo email. But that, you know what I mean, right? Those ads that follow you everywhere. It doesn't get much more personalized than here are literally the shoes you were just looking at. And then follow, video. There are some really cool things that we can do with individual, donor thank yous, things with donor prospecting, event reminders. There's all kinds of things that can be really super personalized. And my very favorite thank you that I've ever gotten from making a donation to a charitable organization, actually came from a video thank you. And it was someone who got on. They used a tool at that time. I think it was ThankView. There's like ThankView or Vidyard. You probably use your MemoryFox account to do these things. There's, lots of ways that you can incorporate video, but that video just basically said, "Hi, Kiersten. It's me, Destiny. I just wanted to thank you so much for the gift. We know you work with a ton of nonprofits, so we appreciate that you supported this campaign that we're doing." I knew that that was absolutely a video meant for me. That video wasn't going to anyone else. And it was a very personalized message, and it really gave me a different feeling toward the organization than what I had ever felt before. So here is some examples of the kinds of data that you can use in order to personalize what you're sending out. So of course, the name, that's number one. Then we're looking at giving history. So how often do they give? Or were they a first-time donor? Because you can send different information to first-time donors than what you would send to a recurring monthly donor, for instance. What's the gift size? Maybe they're a lapsed donor. There's a ton of information about people's relationship with your organization just in their giving history. Demographics, what's their age, their location, their birth date, their profession, where do they work, who do they hang out with. When I was a development director at the zoo in Lincoln, we even kept family trees. So we would have like actual representations of who the matriarchs were and how all of these people were related and how this person was this person's cousin, and because we wanted to know what those relationships were within families. Program interests. What program is it that people are drawn toward? If you have a mentoring program and a food bank program, chances are people are drawn to one program or over the other. So which one do they like, and how can you deliver them messages specifically related to the program they care about? Then audience segmentation. So who's a board member or a past board member, donor, volunteer, staff, program participant. There's all different kinds of ways that we can segment those audiences. We can also get into things like goals and pain points and motivations and buying patterns. And all of this information should really be stored in your database. So I will say, never fear. If you are looking at this list and you are saying, I'm lucky that I even have people's names because my database is a mess or whatever it is, keep in mind that this is just a process, right? So now you start collecting some of this information that maybe you didn't have before. One of my most favorite things to do is to help organizations to survey their donors. And it's something that I don't think we do often enough. We make a ton of assumptions about what people like and what they want and when they want to get things and when they don't want to get things. And man, wouldn't it just be better if we asked people and then we delivered the information to them based on what they tell us? With the new tools that we have in advanced CRMs and those kinds of things, we can really deliver very personalized messages by gathering as much information as we possibly can about the people who care about us. Okay, so Firespring is also a mail company. We're most known for our websites, but we are also a printer and we do direct mail, which is, I know, weird things to put together, but one of the things that I am shocked about every time our department, we talk about, like, we actually call it big wins and cool shit. And it's ideas that our other departments have accomplished, and we get together and we talk about it and things that I might not know. So I'm always blown away by what comes out of our direct mail department. So first of all, if you just put someone's name on a piece instead of going to, dear friend, you can increase your response rate by 44%. If you don't do any personalization, but you use full color instead of just black and white, you can increase your response rates by 45%. If you combine those two things together, name and full color, you can increase your response rates by 135%. And if you do name, full color, and one additional piece of database information, you can increase your response rates by up to 500%. And the thing is that with the current technology that we have, we can change things like, names and information and graphics and all kinds of things. We can change that person to person without ever slowing down or stopping the printing process, which is amazing. So this is one of my favorite examples of this. On the right side, you see a postcard. This is a postcard that the Omaha YMCA sent out as part of their membership campaign a few years ago. And so what we did is we helped them to buy a list of people that kind of fit in their potential demographic. We scrubbed that list against anyone who was currently a member. So we took all their members off of that list. And then really all we had in this list was we knew the people's name and their address, and we knew the location of every YMCA in the city of Omaha. So based on just those three pieces of information, we sent to the mailing list a postcard that had a personalized map to show everyone the driving recommended distance between their house and the closest YMCA. So when someone got this in the mail, it literally had a map to their house. Like, it does not get any more hyper personalized than a map to your house. And again, we had very little information about the mailing list other than their physical address. So that's some examples of some things that you can do. I mean, I'm just always blown away by what we can do with printing and personalization. And so if you're, just out of ideas, call a printer, call Firespring. We are happy to help, because there are some things that can be done with really delivering hyper personalized messages that you would just never ever imagine. And again, this had like benefits of why they should join the Y and all kinds of other things, but just a super personalized piece. Okay, this next piece then, if you look at this and you look at it side by side, it looks exactly the same, right? You would think, okay, that's exactly the same mailing. But the piece on the left actually went to returning donors. So people who had already given to the Team Jack Foundation previously. The piece on the right went to a mailing list that we purchased of potential donors that fit in the demographics of their existing donors. So when I highlight those boxes, you can actually see that whole paragraphs are changed out. If it's a returning donor, we say we'd love to have your support once again, and we have his name on it. It says, "Dear John," and we're telling him that we're thankful for gifts that he's given in the past. On the right, the piece is much more informational, and we know less about that donor. We don't have a previous relationship. But all of that can be done by running everything through a single printing process. And it doesn't slow down the process at all. We can run these side by side, and you're not paying a ton of money to lay out two pieces, because your design costs all essentially stay the same. You've got just a little bit of difference in copywriting for those two distinct paragraphs. So I think that's super interesting. The other thing, I wish I would have known this when I wish that I would have known this when I was doing fundraising. So this is what you would think of as a standard pledge card, right? It looks just like a pledge card anybody would send. And so if you look at the top here, you can see, oops, it didn't highlight like I wanted it to. Okay, you can see that it's like the standard donation amounts: 25, 50, 100, 250, 500, 1,000. Let's say you have a donor who every year gives you $2,500 in your spring campaign or your year-end campaign. If you send them this pledge card, you're running the risk of walking them back from $2,500 to $25. So we can actually take your pledge cards. We could put the person's name and address. We could ink that right on there, so it's a pledge card just for them. And then we can actually change out the suggested variable donation amounts based on giving history. So we could maybe start them at 1,000 or 2,500 instead of starting them at $25. So then, and all that is a simple code that you code everybody in your database based on previous giving history. So that's, again, an example of that hyper personalization. Okay, next we are going to power our marketing with AI. I mean, I'd be crazy if I didn't have something in here about AI, right? So the thing about artificial intelligence is that we want to keep in mind that it does not replace nonprofit marketers. I read somewhere this really interesting quote where it's like, AI use in nonprofits actually doesn't help us to eliminate staff. It just helps the people who are already doing 5 jobs. I was like, oh my gosh, truer words have never been spoken, right? So it helps us to multiply the capacity that we have, and really just helps us, especially with the things that are repetitive and time-consuming tasks. And we do this so that nonprofit leaders, we can all focus on our people, our relationships, our missions. And there are some really great things that AI can help us in terms of fundraising, marketing, conducting events, communication, donor stewardship, just basic administration, program efficiency, volunteer management, all of those things. There are lots of things that AI can do for us. Now, I would be silly if I didn't also say, why not AI, right? Because there are some people who have issues with AI, and there are also some things that we need to be really conscious and aware of when we are working with artificial intelligence. So we want to make sure that AI is always supporting the work that we are doing, but that it's not replacing our authentic voice as organizations. You provide to AI, you use it as a tool. You provide the mission, the judgment, and the authenticity. If you don't do that, you risk losing the voice and tone of your organization. You also have to be super careful about misleading and inaccurate information delivered to you via an AI tool. There's also a lot about potential bias. It's an older video piece, but if you go to my LinkedIn profile, on my LinkedIn profile, I actually have a pinned post about bias in AI, particularly in videos. That's really, really insightful. So if you're curious about potential bias in AI, definitely go check that out. Privacy concerns. And then, other people are concerned about it replacing jobs. I'm not too worried about that really in the nonprofit sphere. I think we all have plenty of work to keep people going, right? I think some of these concerns are valid. And I also think that it's a really good, important reminder that AI can be used responsibly and it can be used thoughtfully. And I will say that if your organizations are not using AI, I am a big believer that you will eventually be left behind. I think that it's going to turn the pace of content creation, connecting to people, making decisions. It's going to turn the pace that we've worked with on its head, really. And so it really is something that you have to at least dip a toe in and start working on it. So the best use cases so far, and I recognize that this is just scratching the surface of what AI can do. So I really think about this trends presentation as being like the base surface level. But I do want to recognize that I know that if I'm just using AI for these things, I'm probably not maximizing AI as I could. But just some examples of what you can do if you're brand new to AI or you're not using it in these ways yet. It's excellent for writing first drafts, especially for things like fundraising letters, social media posts, all of those things. And then you can expand on it, add your voice and tone from there. It's great for donor research. It's good for grant proposal assistance, putting in all the information that you need for the grant and helping to make sure that you are actually completing everything that the grant tells you that you need. Like, it's a great check and balance. The other day I went to my AI tool and I said, "Hey, bestie," that's what we call each other, bestie. And I was like, "Hey, bestie, I really need some help, like just brainstorming and talking through this problem." And my AI tool helped me get to a really great conclusion that I needed to achieve. But sometimes I work from home by myself, and so it's nice to have a bestie like right there in my computer that I can call on whenever it's convenient for me and not for them. Grant proposal assistance, like I said, meeting summaries, content repurposing. So if you write a blog post or you submit an article or a letter, then how can you take that information and repurpose it into social media posts and video content and LinkedIn and Facebook and all those other ways that you could repurpose existing content? Segmenting or analyzing data. Now, I will put a little side note in here, and we'll talk about it in the next slide too, but anytime you are doing any kind of data analysis or segmentation analysis, anything like that, we've got to make sure that we're maintaining donor privacy. And AI tools learn on each other, so you don't want your donor information to end up in somebody else's search results. So just be very, very careful about entering any personal data. And then finally, creating descriptions. If you have an auction coming up, no one should ever be writing in original auction item descriptions ever again. Put it into AI. I donated a basket of Harry Potter themed things to my my church auction, and so I gave it a list of all of the things that were included in the basket, and I said, write a 100-word summary of this item, and help people to get excited and want to buy it. And the next thing you know, it spits out this thing, and it was like, calling all muggles and wizards alike. Like, it had the terminology, it spit out this really, really great, starting point for an auction description. And yeah, like, it was so simple and so much better than what I could have come up with on my own. It probably would have taken me 30 to 40 minutes to write, a really good auction description. And I did it in like 5 minutes. So awesome. Okay, next, ethical. And I see Carly said, yeah, it saves a ton of time. I can't imagine, having that now. Yeah, I didn't ever have it when I was writing auction descriptions years ago. So, ethical and responsible use. So a couple of things with AI. One of the big concerns that I will often hear is people who have big concerns about the environmental impact of AI. That is certainly something that I think we want to be aware of and make sure that we are doing our best to manage the impact that we help to create on that ethical consideration. So using AI intentionally, but not excessively, is part of the way that we can do that. Don't ever get so reliant on it that it's like the only tool you're using in your day, right? Choose tools that prioritize efficiency and sustainability. So there are some companies that are more responsible than others. Avoid unnecessary or repetitive generation. So I have tons and tons of things in my AI tool. And I'll just go back to one that has a similar like look and feel and add on to it, as opposed to creating all new information. Balancing AI use with its time-saving benefits, and then creating clear policies. So, if you have policies that guide the usage, then it's going to make you more confident in using the tool and also help your staff to be more confident as well. So I'm a huge fan. And here's the cheat code, right? If you need to create policies around AI usage, have the AI tool help you to write those policies. So writing policies, writing job descriptions, those kinds of things, that is the perfect use for an AI tool. And like any other tool, there are benefits and drawbacks. You can't avoid it. We just want to make sure that we're using it wisely and with purpose. Tools for nonprofit marketing. Content and writing, I like ChatGPT and Gemini. I use both of those. I also use Perplexity fairly extensively as well, mostly for research-based questions. So especially, I will use Perplexity to fact check ChatGPT. So if ChatGPT spits out something and I am not sure if that's a legitimate statistic, I'll throw it into Perplexity and have Perplexity double check the stats for me. And I also use Google for fact checking as well. Meeting notes, you can use Firefly's AI is one that I've used a ton for in-person meetings, where you just like start it in the middle of the table and it listens to everybody and takes your notes. Otter AI is another tool. And anytime I'm on Zoom, 100% I am using the Zoom AI tool. It's by far my favorite. And then video and content repurposing, I also use Opus Clip. Opus Clip AI is a video editing software tool. And so if you follow me on LinkedIn at all, pretty much anytime I'm posting video content, it's gone through Opus Clip to just help me make my posts more succinct and more approachable. And then Pictory is also another one for video and content repurposing. Okay, so here's the pro tip related to AI. Remember to use concise text. So you want to make sure that you are, using check-in questions for sure. Like sometimes I'll put in a whole list of things that I want my AI to do, and then I'll say, what more information do you need from me in order to help deliver the best result. And then it'll send me back like 5 questions that I didn't think about including. And I end up with better results because I've provided those check-in questions. Maybe give it some real world examples so that, it helps the AI to understand you and your target audience. And the key thing is, again, talk to your AI as if it were a person. That's the best tip anyone's ever given me about AI. And like I say, I do. We have nicknames and we're just, my AI tool and I are just buddies. Okay. So resources for good information on AI. I've listed a couple of books here and some websites that you can go to, some places that have really good articles and really good information. So if you're looking for a ton of new information about AI, there's some resources for you. If we combine AI and the hyper personalization, there are a couple of things I want to talk about combining those two trends together. So first of all, you want to use your data dynamically in order to automate tasks in real time or to provide insights without having to do a ton of stuff on your own. So automating repetitive tasks, things like data cleansing, email marketing, even some donor engagement things or scheduling meetings. All of those things you can use AI tools to make those repetitive tasks easier. Providing like client support or donor support, website visitor support by using chatbots. That's always an option. Things like donor intelligence tools. You can identify potential donors. You can maybe try and figure out which donors are at risk for your organization, donor capacity, those kinds of things. And then outreach optimization. So personalizing messages, the frequency with which you're sending them, having it help you to, maximize your plan for how and when you're going to send things. And then if you maybe want to try A/B testing some of your marketing messages, ask your AI tool to help you, decide what you're going to test through A/B testing. And then the last thing related to these two areas is really the future of search. So we are seeing huge rises in both voice search and AI related search. This is going to change the game on search engine optimization. So voice search is, using Siri or using, now she's going to answer, or my little Amazon device that's over in the corner that I can't say their name. Voice search, it's so much about how we get information anymore is by using our voices to ask those tools. And so particularly if your nonprofit organization has a brick and mortar office, you've got to make sure that your website is updated with all of the information that people might ask their voice search machines, because if you don't, then you're missing out, right? And so there's a couple ways that you can make sure that your website is optimized for search. First of all, if you've not claimed your Google My Business profile, definitely go out and do that. Make sure that all of your information is up to date. Then you want to make sure that your website is updated, that you're using conversational keywords and phrases, and that you are using keywords that actually people will search for. If you have never done like any kind of a keyword assessment or a search engine optimization assessment on your website, I cannot recommend them highly enough. They will really change the way you think about putting your entire website together. I was working the other day with a domestic violence organization out in the western part of Nebraska, and we actually ended up changing whole sections of their site based on not the language that they're used to using, but instead the language that people are using to search by. And then my biggest piece of advice on any kind of search is that every organization needs to have a frequently asked questions page, because what that does is it poses a question and then it provides an answer. So when the bots are searching your site, it's automatically feeding into that question, answer, and that's going to raise you higher on the search engine profiles. So make sure you have FAQ sections.
Hey, Kiersten,
Okay.
before we move
Yeah.
on, one quick
Yeah.
question. We had Andrea in the chat asked if how much do you spend on AI tools each month? And I think that's referencing that slide where you had them all laid out.
Yeah.
And so like which ones are you using in an open style or which ones are you paying for?
So I am currently using, just for me, so I'm currently using Gemini in open. I'm using Perplexity in open. I have free accounts in both of those.
Okay.
I do pay for ChatGPT because I want it to be able to do a little bit more than what the free version does. And I also want to be able to save things, and I've got it trained now, so I don't want to mess with it. So I do the paid version of ChatGPT. I also, and I think it's like $20 a month for 2 accounts, if I remember right. And then Opus Clip AI, I pay for that as well, and I think that's about $12 a month. So just personally, Firespring is spending about, 35 bucks a month on my AI tools. I would say that you could spend $50 or less probably per staff person per month on AI tools.
Thank you.
Yeah. And it also depends. Like the larger your organization, then of course the more expensive it's going to be because you have to have more licenses and those kinds of things. But you should also be able to get bulk discounts at that point as well. So great question. Thanks, Carly. Okay, now we're going to talk about community-driven marketing. And this is where we're going to talk briefly about influencers. So here is the thing. I can tell you how amazing Firespring is. But if one of my clients tells you how amazing Firespring is, then you will believe that I am amazing much more because you're hearing it from someone else, peer or just a third party endorsement, as opposed to me telling you. This is why influencers and influencer marketing is really important for nonprofit organizations. Our biggest currency as nonprofit organizations is trust. And we want people to know us and to trust us. And that's when they will give us their time, their money, all of those things. And so influencers can really be helpful in helping us to build trust. So influencer marketing is essentially the idea of the old celebrity endorsement, but we're mashing that up with modern day content marketing and content creation in order to find people who will help advocate for our nonprofits and expand our reach. We used to talk about influencers. Everyone thought automatically of the Kim Kardashians of the world. Those are mega influencers. None of us can touch that, right? But there's this new sweet spot now in influencing at the nano. I have micro level listed there, but I would really say that nano level is where we're seeing huge explosion in even brands using very small influencers because they are more reliable and they are more trustworthy. And so if you're looking for an influencer for your organization, consider, does the person have reach and scale on social media? Do they have, and in your community, do they have credibility in the niche, right? So like they might be a great person, but if they don't know anything about, the work that you do, then it doesn't matter if they're credible or not. And then the same goes for persuasion. Are they persuasive? Because they could be wonderful people, but if other people don't do what they tell them to do, then they're not a valuable influencer. You need people who are persuasive. So I recommend that you go through email lists. You can do Google searches to find influencers in your area. I'm guessing you could do an AI search. You can look at the analytics, look at the back end of your website. Do you have a bunch of people that are suddenly coming to you from YouTube? Well, if that's the case, then you might have a YouTube influencer who is already pushing people, to your content or to your website. Social media, who already follows you, who's already sharing your content. And then finally, you can just do networking. Keep in mind that this could be existing supporters, local leaders who are already involved in your cause, existing followers, board members, community members. There are a ton of people out there that I think have the potential to be influencers for our organizations. We just haven't ever thought about them in that way. This is like the big picture idea of influencer, right? So this dude, his name is Dr. Lupo. He is a video game streamer. He streams video games on Twitch. My son knew all about who he was. He does this thing called hashtag Build Against Cancer, where he goes on and he plays, I think primarily Fortnite is what he's known for. So he plays Fortnite and he does like all these crazy dances and all of these things. And then he gets people to give money to St. Jude. Since 2018, he has raised over $15.3 million for St. Jude off of people across the country who play video games. It's absolutely crazy and astonishing to me, but this is a thing. So this is another example of how you can, find influencers. And the other thing is Dr. Lupo is he lives in Omaha, Nebraska. It's not like he's on the coast or, in, some huge city or metropolitan area. He's just up the street from us in Omaha. I would have never even known he was there. But, it's really cool what can happen. So if you're looking to add an influencer or to do some community-driven marketing, do your research. And I'm not talking go back 6 months. I'm talking like do a deep dive into somebody's socials. Think about what kind of relationship you want to have with them. So I recommend never asking someone, will you be an influencer for our organization? But instead, would you help us promote this event? Or would you help us to promote this campaign? Would you help us to talk about this program? Something that is short term where you can be really clear what you're asking for. Maybe you want them to live stream a tour of your space, or you want them to live stream from an event. You're going to offer them a free ticket or a table in exchange for a post or a review of their experience. I just don't ever recommend getting into long-term open-ended relationships. That makes me nervous. So I always say do short. You can always add on another campaign or another effort, but don't get into a situation where you have to have a really uncomfortable conversation with somebody whose influencing is no longer working for you. Okay, so now we're short form and visual storytelling. Attention spans are short. Video dominates without a doubt. So a couple of quick trends. This is a little bit for social media, but it's really more about video. So first of all, on social media, you're going to want to mix your content types. So make sure that you are using reels and stories. I don't think that nonprofits are using those two tools enough. And in addition to mixing content types, we always want to do, yeah, an infographic has never gone viral, but videos go viral all the time. Absolutely. Think about doing things like YouTube shorts. You can use TikTok as a video creation or editing software, even if you're not, having a real active TikTok campaign. And that always brings me to my point that just because a platform exists does not mean you have to be there. Here's the thing about trends. Like TikTok is the thing right now, right? But if that's not where your target audience is, if it is not where your message is going to resonate, if it's not where you're going to find new fans, new followers, new supporters, then it's not worth your effort. And you can tell that board member who will not shut up about a TikTok account that I said it. So you don't have to be there. User-generated content is huge. We can't say enough about user-generated content. We want to do quick impact stories. People's attention spans are short. So let's give them little bits of information that they can digest a little at a time. Again, I mentioned the donor thank yous. Those can be public thank yous that you post online, or they can be private thank yous that you send one-on-one. And then staff updates, but make sure that if you're doing a staff update, that it's tied to some kind of audience need, right? Like not just that this staff person wants to put out a video, but why does your audience who follows you, why do they need to know that information? So that's my video. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say, like, I am on the perfect platform to talk about short form video content, right? Nobody does it better than MemoryFox, and their tools are incredible. And they're, nobody asked me to say that. I love it. And it's a great tool. So you should definitely use it. Okay. Now I want to talk about first party data strategy. So nonprofit organizations have to own your audience relationships and your audience lists. So here is an example of the kinds of things that you need to be managing: your email lists, your donor CRM data, surveys, website accounts, and relationships, right? These are all pieces of data that you need to be managing. Your list is your most valuable marketing asset, hands down. So in just 45 minutes a month, here are a few things that I think you should be looking at every single month. First of all, Google Analytics or whatever backend you have to your website, you need to be looking at it. Where are the visitors coming from? What pages are they visiting? How long are they staying? Where are they going when they're on your site? What's their donor journey? 15 minutes needs to be spent in the business manager for Meta and or LinkedIn. Who are your audiences? Who are they, who I think that should be when are they active, not who are they active. I told you I did this late last night. How are they engaging and what works well? Like what posts get a ton of comment engagement, which ones don't. And then 15 minutes looking at things like email responses to e-blasts or e-newsletters. Or if you don't have e-newsletters that you've done, then spend 15 minutes in your database just looking through your donor lists, right? What commonalities can you find? What messages do people respond to? Those kinds of things. So if you spent just 45 minutes every single month in your data doing this, you are going to be making better decisions, better marketing decisions for your entire organization with just a very little bit of effort on your lists. Which then leads us into donor journey marketing. There are lots of ways that we can talk about this. It's been called multi-channel marketing. It's omni-channel marketing. It's a coordinated marketing campaign. There's all different kinds of ways that you can talk about this, but it is really all about thinking how your donor or how each individual interacts with you and what their experience is, and then mapping out what kind of experience you want them to have. And so here is a sample donor journey. So you could do a social media post, then you follow that up with an email. Then hopefully they're going to come visit your website. Then you're going to send them a direct mail piece. It's probably going to have a QR code on it to take them to your website. Then we're going to do an email follow-up. Then there's a landing page that you're going to send them to from that email. And we're going to follow up with another direct mail piece to anybody who hasn't responded or anybody that needs a little extra push. And ideally, they're going to make a donation, right? But what we're finding is just sending the direct mail piece, so just doing number 4 on this list, isn't enough. People need the reminders. They need to be contacted in multiple spaces multiple times. And then we're going to take them after the donation comes the really important stewardship piece. And then we're on to, events and invites, those kinds of things, becoming their charity of choice. When it comes to marketing automation, so much of this donor journey can really be automated. 51% of companies are now using marketing automation. 80% of marketers see an increase in the number of leads or the number of potential donors when they're using marketing automation software. And nearly 80% of marketers acknowledge that marketing automation is the number one contributor to their success. So what pieces of this donor journey can you automate? Can you set up your email series so that it just automatically sends those emails? You write them all at once, you put them into the system, and then it's just gonna run, right? Set it and forget it. Okay, here are the 5 trends that I want us to avoid, or at the very least approach with caution. First of all, and I sound like a broken record, but I'm gonna say it again, chasing every new platform. Just because a social media platform exists does not mean you have to be there. Then marketing for vanity metrics. I really don't care how many followers an organization has on any of their platforms. What I care about is what is the relationship that they have with those followers. Are they engaging with you? Are they commenting? Are they liking? Those kinds of things. Like what is the relationship? You want to include automation to a point, but you don't want to over automate things to the point that you forget to have that authentic relationship. And then again, with authenticity, anytime you're using AI without authenticity, that's going to be a problem. And then finally, creating content or delivering content without having any strategy behind it. That's just really a wasted effort for everybody. So here are your action steps. Create some short surveys so that you can start collecting that data for personalization that you don't currently have. Then find even just one AI tool out there that makes your life easier. And then become besties with your AI helper, because then, it's just going to know you and all the things you want to know. And then research local influencers. If you made a plan to reach out to one local influencer, even one a year, but if you did one a quarter, just think of how much that might expand your potential audience. Then spend 45 minutes a month in your data. And finally, recognize that you cannot do all of these things. So be strategic, pick 1 or 2 things to help you get started, and then ask for help for the things that you cannot do on your own. And finally, keep learning. You can attend free webinars from Firespring. And of course, our great friends at MemoryFox have tons of great content as well. If you're feeling buried because you're doing all these things, we recommend you let your website do the heavy lifting, and it's not coincidental. We have an awesome website tool. So if you're interested, let us know. I would love to do a free website health check for you to look at your current site or to get you information about other options. And then we do all of these things. And then if you go to firespring.com/webinars, they were just adding new webinars to our calendar today. So go check that out. And that leaves me like 3 minutes for questions because I talk too much. Okay.
That's okay because I think I only have like one question that really came in that we didn't already answer, or that you didn't answer after the question came in.
Okay.
Andrea asked, because you were talking a lot about your email list and how important that is.
Mhm.
Andrea said, what if the email list is super dead, like a fair amount of opens, but no one seems to take any action? Do you have any advice for somebody with that issue?
Yeah. What I have typically found is that if if the emails are getting open but there's no action being taken, then probably it has to do with the content. Um, really being very intentional in the emails about giving people a task, right? What action is it that you want them to take? Because that, I think, it's one thing to send it out and hope that someone gets back to us, but to send it out and ask for people to engage with it. I think that that's probably the step that we're missing, is that we're not really asking for the engagement. So I would say that's the first thing. And then I also think that, yeah, I mean, email lists are one of those things where every once in a while I just kind of do a quick check-in, right? Like, are you still there? Why do you follow our organization? Tell me in 10 words or less why you
Right.
love our organization. Just again, that kind of engagement, anything that deepens the relationships and gives people a reason to reach out. Yeah.
Yeah, I also think that if you're finding that your email list, if you are feeling like it's not really serving you, then what we need to do is find a new way to get people onto your email list that will serve you in the way that
Yes.
you're looking for. So if you have maybe a pop-up on your website that has a great like resource for someone, let them sign up. That's something that you definitely want to get going. Yes, the
Yeah.
other question was, what are the books behind Kiersten? We have
So
Building a
this
Story
one is
Brand.
building a story brand. This is the 2.0 version. You can get the regular original version. This one just came out about a year, not quite a year ago. I'm a big fan of Donald Miller, who is the author of that book, and I am a former certified guide for Donald Miller and for StoryBrand. This has changed the way I think about doing nonprofit marketing, in that it talks all about simplifying and clarifying messages, number one. And number two, everything becomes about putting the focus on the audience and not on the organization. And I think those two things flip how we do nonprofit marketing. So I highly recommend that. There's too many books back there
You
to
don't want to
even.
go through them
Yeah, I
all?
don't want to go through all of those. Yeah, there's a whole bunch, but this anything written by Donald Miller, I'm always a big fan of promoting that. So yeah,
I think that's such, even just what you said, such a good tip because people, when we're thinking about talking about our brand externally, we need to remember that we work inside our brand for 40
yeah,
hours a week, every week, but the people who are receiving our messages are only going to think about us for that 5, 10 seconds that we're in front of them. So what can we really get out in that short amount of time that's going to stick with them? It's like so important.
yeah, absolutely. And it's just we do so many amazing things, and we want everybody to know about those things, which is awesome. But we forget that people really want to know what they need to know, and not
Right.
what we want them to know.
And
And
that's where
it
that
just
data collection
yeah,
comes into play, like you mentioned
yes.
earlier. The surveying, I love that tip, surveying. Anything else you want to share with us, Kirsten? I mean, obviously that was so much information. I know
Sorry.
I wrote a bunch of notes to myself in my Slack channel so I can remember a lot of the tips that you shared, but
Good.
I'm sure everybody in the chat was getting great tips from you. Everyone, we got lots of people that were bringing up, questions and stuff, but anything else before we wrap up today?
Yeah, I am happy to visit with anybody. Probably the easiest way to reach me is to reach out on LinkedIn. You always drop into direct messages. Happy to answer questions and those kinds of things. And yeah, we just appreciate the opportunity to be with you guys today, and I appreciate the extra nudge to get this content updated. It was the perfect excuse for me to have to bust it out. And yeah, it's been great. Thank you guys so much for having us.
Yeah,
So
thank you for joining us. Thank you for being my first webinar back. So exciting. Definitely follow Kirsten on LinkedIn. Definitely follow Firespring on all platforms. If you don't already, go ahead and follow MemoryFox too, because you'll see videos from me. You'll see lots of content from my whole staff. So we're out and about. We're always doing fun stuff. So come learn more about us. And with that, happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day. Have a great, successful week, and hopefully a lot of you are getting great fundraising this week.
yeah, awesome. Sounds good. Good to see everybody. Thanks so
Bye,
much.
everybody.
Bye-bye.